consensus daily. I will be before the link in a minute so we can share it in Telegram. Akash told me that he's not going to be able to attend today, so everyone's here already. Sharing the link. And we are live, yeah. The first one in the list today is God's Power. Do you want to start?
Good day, everyone. I continued to work on methodization of list and I've made a lot of progress. I'm generating the routes now, but I'm still not getting the right routes. There's no spec there, so I'm basically comparing with Rust implementations. So yeah, I'm now checking for correctness. So that's currently what I'm working on, trying to get the right routes. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. It's weird to me that there are no spec tests for merkleization, but we can check maybe some of the spec tests depend on merkleization working, but they might not be the best diagnosis of those. Because, for instance, I remember. Oh, yeah, we need to check that. I mean, yeah, this is not the main issue, but if you're not blocked, you can just continue with that. But
Wait, say we have the hash tree roots spec test, right? Isn't that merkleization?
yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking about the same.
Yeah, so I
Like,
mentioned a while ago that I mentioned a
actually, we
while ago.
can like just sorry. Actually, we can just implement it to the light client part because we were talking about with Mega about that. Like, I've implemented some kind of Merkle root generation and the Merkle proof generation. But the thing is that like it's not very compatible with our projects. So like we can implement it to there, I guess. What do you think about it, Mega?
The SSH generic and static runners have metadata of the root of SSH objects, and we can use that to test the merkleization results.
Yeah, what I'm actually saying is that um the spec test contains like values for bit vector, basic types, bit list, and but it doesn't contain for merkleization of list specifically. So that's what is happening. It doesn't contain for list merkleization of basic type list and also complex type list. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm currently using the one by Ralex Strokes. Yeah, so I'm using his implementation and it just has like a couple of like i- simple unit tests. And that's what I'm using to compare my own values. So yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that one good thing to do would be to, if you haven't done this already, if you're basing yourself on another client's implementation, for instance, like getting a unit test or something, we can port that same unit test to Elixirs just so that we can count on it and we can have it too. And it may not be in the spec test, but at least we have that unit test coded and it runs. Because I think that their main reason why they didn't include unit tests or spec unit tests for lists is because they probably already have those covered in the containers tests. So, but at the same time, I fully get you that you're not implementing containers yet. You're implementing lists. So it's a tricky point. I think that the best thing we can do is code the unit test ourselves and and just run it over there, so that you don't need to manually compare with the values on other clients. You just hard code that value in a test and you use it as a unit test. That may be a good starting point. Does that sound
Okay,
okay?
like using NIFs, right? Using NIFs, like interacting with the test.
I wouldn't do that because we will delete nifs eventually. What I would do is just, if you have one like value that you know for sure that is the correct one, you can just hard code that value as the merkleized value, like the expected value, and then you can just assert that the result of Merkleizing with your library is the same as that hard-coded value. So, and then we can have that as an automated unit test that we can run always. And you don't have to manually compare byte by byte, which is an error-prone process. And also, and if you need a way to just like have those values, you can like write those values to a file or whatever from Rust, and then you can just read those from Elixir once. And once you have the actual array, you can like just copy paste and have it in the unit test. That's just an idea. We can discuss many others, but I think it would be good that if you're having any test procedure, that we have it in a unit test that we can reproduce later on. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And let us know if it, like any like I just said like 20 different things. If you need like review of any of that later on, like just let us know and we can have a new chat or continue in Telegram or whatever.
Yeah. So if someone can look into the PR, maybe someone can point something out. That would be nice.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for the update. The next one is Fernando.
Yes. For my part, yesterday I set up the execution client and Git and the MIT proxy, so I can start to make the implementation of the engine calls. The one that is the issue is already implemented, but Martin pointed me out that it's necessary to call that function from the necessary place. So I am reading that part to see where I have to call that function. Yeah, I continue with that, learning about that. I did one small update to the build list PR, so that the code is more clean.
Awesome. I sent you a review yesterday. I don't know if this was after or before that, but I'll check that again.
No. Yeah, that one. About that.
Awesome. Thank you. I will do a quick check immediately after the meeting. Thank you for the work on that. I'm sorry it has been a long running one, but rest assured that we're almost there and we will get it merged very soon. Yeah, thank you for the work on that. It's probably been one of our most exploratory issues or whatever. Like it's as I said, documentation is not very nice, and also we are just implementing that from the ground up, and we don't have like very clear specs support from Python or whatever. So thank you for taking that issue. Thank you for the update. And the next one is Mega.
Okay. Yesterday I continued optimizing the attestation processing. I modified the code to use arrays instead of lists. It kind of worked. It processes the whole block faster. It doesn't seem to speed up the attestation processing. I'm also checking how it affects if we transform other fields into vectors from lists. And today I'm gonna continue with that. And also trying to optimize the code that uses vectors, because we really have to optimize it as best as we can.
That's awesome. That's some heavy work. Like we especially this last part about moving lists to arrays with map backends. That's probably something that's very interesting to share out there with the Elixir world, because that's something like one always thinks, hey, Elixir is pretty good. Like lists are okay for most cases. This is one of the cases where it's not.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
I actually changed the library I was using. The other one was like it used maps as backend, and it also had the option for using Erlang arrays. But there was another one that was just an implementation of I think it was a 16-array tree that works as a vector, and it went kind of like 3 times faster than the map and the Erlang implementation. So I kind of
Nice.
stick with it.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, thanks for the research. And the next one is Martin.
Hey, also, I was doing some refactoring of all the config. We were kind of dynamically setting config values inside application, but moving that to runtime, which is the more like Elixir kinematic way of doing it, and also adding the config for Sepolia. Yeah, that's it for me.
That's great, thank you. The next one is Mete.
Hello everyone. Yesterday I was like working on the Thomas's comments from the metadata part. There are like some setters and like initialization part. I worked on those and spoke with Mega about the Merkleization part. I mean the Merkle proof generation part. And like actually I'll be waiting for the God powers issue for that, I guess. And like that's all from me.
Okay, perfect. Let us know if you're blocked by anything or if you're like, if you need any feedback. But you've been doing that very well, so thank you. I think that I'm the only one missing. Most of yesterday I worked on bit lists. Sorry, not bit lists, bit vectors. We when talking with Mega a couple of days ago, we found a bug or a missing part in the bit vectors library. Basically, it assumed big endian byte order, and it's not that way. It's little endian byte order with a twist. But we added the reversal of bytes in the construction of the bit vectors, and also when we added a function that's called 2 bytes that does the reversal again when turning that into bytes, which is kind of like we basically put the deserialization and serialization of bit vectors inside of the library, which was kind of a missing part. And there were some things that worked by chance. Like for instance, when we were using bit vector library before, we were using it in one element that had 4 bits. And when you don't have a full byte, then you don't care about the byte order, basically, because you only have 1 byte. And then we had a different one that had 512 bits, which is a full amount of bytes. So the byte order mattered, and we were doing the reversal manually outside of the library. But we weren't adding the padding, and the only reason that works is because there was no padding, because it was a full number of bytes. So we included all of that in the library, and that should be working now. We unit tested that, and we got it merged. So Fernando, I might ask in the bit vector PR that you do like one extra thing, which is extremely small. But it's trivial. It's not like the kind of work you have been doing. It's just adding a 2 bytes call in one place, because we now have something different. But that's it. Yeah, and I think that's most of what I was doing yesterday. Got that merged. I also reviewed Fernando's PR. Today, I will continue reviewing Fernando's PR, this one and the containers one, that he diligently added all of the schemas for all of the containers, which was a lot of work. And after that, I will probably continue, after Fernando merges his PR on bitlists, I will probably build a bitlist module just so that we can, the same that we have a bit vector one, we can have a bitlist one that contains all of the same logic of accessing individual bits, shifting if necessary. I don't think that bitlist supports shifting, but accessing for sure. Just to make sure that the behavior of not the serialization, deserialization is already implemented by Fernando. So what I want to make sure is that accessors and getters for bitlist are available homogeneously all over the application. And that's it for me. Any final comments or questions?
Yeah, so I noticed something in the implementation of encoding, which is that we are explicitly adding, like telling a function what type it is
Yes.
before actually doing that. But then when I see other implementations, it's kind of um, it's just gotten like because from the spec test, especially for unsigned integers, we are getting the size from the name of like from like uint underscore 8 underscore something nice. We're getting the size from there. But in practice, we'll need to try to get the size ourselves, right? So it's just like it's more like a consign or something. I don't know if we should change the implementation so that we don't have to depend on the spec tests to give us because that's not how it should work in practice. So
No, that's a very
yeah,
good point. This is something that we have discussed before, but just to give you a little bit of insight, with Fernando's change, we won't need to do that as much. We still need to add a couple of like wrappers, but especially for containers, we will not need to pass any arguments because those are like self-explanatory in a way. Like for instance, if you are encoding, I don't know, a beacon state or something like that, the fact that it's a beacon state struct is already enough information for the library to understand that it needs to encode it in a way. There are some cases where you don't know. For instance, if you're encoding an individual integer, then you don't know if that integer is 32 bytes, 16 bytes, etc. But if it's inside a container, the container has a schema that already has all of that information. So that will effectively be the way you want it to be. Like you will not need to specify, hey, this is a beacon state because it's abstract. It already tells the compiler that this is a beacon state, and you won't need to specify. But if you have like a basic type, the most probable thing is that you still will need to tell it what kind of type it is. We might figure out some like type aliases for basic types. Like if we have like, I don't know, like a public key or like a root or something like that, specifically roots, we should have a way to map the roots type to the bytes 32 type, so that that's kind of a schema in itself. We will probably do some of that, but that's a bit less priority. Let us know if you have like any use case, like specific example where you say, hey, this is specific place, this is conflicting, like we need to change it here.
okay. I think I have one. So when I was implementing size of, the size of function is supposed to take a type and return the size. But for me to do that, I need to get the size from the encoding. But the encoding still asks me to put the size itself.
I
You
think
know?
that we already have a function like that in Fernando's library in SSZX, so you might not need to implement it. I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that we already have a size function.
Okay. Okay, it's kind of specific to Merkleization, like the helpers, but then I'll look into that.
Okay. Oh, yeah. If it's like not the encoded size, but the Merkleized size, yeah, definitely we don't have that. Sorry if I misunderstood that one.
Yeah. So in that particular function, you need to get the size, but then the function when the way to get the size is to encode it and get the byte size. But for me to encode it, I need to still put in the size. So it was kind of
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg problem.
like
I get that.
yeah.
Let us continue this in Telegram, just so that we have a written version of this. And then if we need to, we can just add a Google Meet, and then we can continue discussing if we need to. But I would love to have that written somewhere so that we can discuss it. Like, hey, this is a piece of code that I need to implement. That would make it very clear to me. But that's a perfectly good point. Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning
I
that.
think you can just check my PR to if you to understand
Yeah,
better.
I'll do so. Thank you very much, Godspower. Yeah, I think that we can, mostly because we are kind of out of time today. We already have some of the members out. But thank you very much for joining today, and see you all on the next daily. And yeah.